Real talk. People aren't going to college because they can't afford it. And I think that's a crime. That's a huge problem in our educational system. We are wasting so much beautiful human potential simply because it costs too much to go to college. If I were running the country, I would be investing so heavily into educating the populace, because what happens when you have an educated population? You are a better country, you make better decisions, you make better products, you're just better off generally. And why is it that it's so difficult to go to college? Well, this is why we're having Real Talk. It's a crime that if you want to go to college and you don't have the money, you can't. That is a complete and utter human right violation that is going on constantly. So let's talk about this. I'm slightly ashamed to be going to Stanford. And to explain why, let's look to Malcom Gladwell. Malcom Gladwell is a genius, by the way. Malcom has this podcast called Revisionist History. It's pretty cool. I'll link to it. He explains the issue with our educational system in this way. There are two mentalities, the strong link mentality and the weak link mentality. The strong link mentality is like basketball, where you get superstars like LeBron James or Steph Curry. You put them on your team, you're gonna start winning games because it's a superstar sport. It's a strong link game. Weak link mentality is like soccer, where you get better than average players and you get a bunch of them and you're gonna start to win games. You're only as good as your weakest player, even though there are superstars in soccer. Does that make sense? Good. Our educational system in the US is like a weak link system. It's only as good as the weakest or the at most average university. However, our educational system is treated like a strong link system, where we give money to the biggest and best and most elite universities, where the other universities that don't have these big, rich endowments are struggling and they can't provide the same type of education as other elite universities. Take Stanford, for example. I'll say it, it's an elite university. It's hoity-toity. People want to come here, and they have tons of money. I mean, like, they have tons of really, really rich alumni, these fancy people, these entrepreneurs that make bajillions of dollars, and these fancy people send fancy amounts of money to Stanford. Stanford has a freaking ton of money. So much even, what I understand is it's $20 billion that they have in endowments. That's insane! That's more than the GDP of Jamaica, Barbados, and Haiti combined. That is beyond insane! With that type of endowment, Stanford gets estimated $2.5 billion just in interest, and they don't have to pay any taxes on that. None. So it's pretty safe to say that Stanford has enough money to cover their needs. They don't need any more money. Why do they keep getting more and more endowments, huge sums of money, when there are colleges all over the US that are struggling just to stay open and give an education? So let's calm down a little bit. Malcom Gladwell meets with John Hennessy, the president of Stanford. He tells Malcolm, we just got a $750 million endowment. And you know what he says to Malcolm? What they're gonna do with it? They're gonna make an elite scholarship program for the smartest, brightest, most elite 100 students in the whole world, so that they can become leaders and solve all the world's problems. Stanford doesn't need any more money. There are thousands, millions even, of people that should be going to college that are hugely smart, geniuses even, and they can't go to school. Why? Because they can't afford it. And Stanford's over here making an elite scholarship for an exclusive 100 students. This is insane. Okay, we have to pause for a sec. I have to go to class. Okay, so I'm back from class. It went really well, by the way. Instead of using that money on an elite group of students, that money should be going to colleges and universities and educational programs that are struggling, that need that money to help those weak links, and so we can all raise the system, the educational system here, to a whole new level, make it accessible for everyone, being able to give scholarships, making it more well-rounded and even quality across the whole US. Not just making Stanford or Yale or Princeton or Harvard even that much better, widening the gap between an elite college and a regular one. When Malcom Gladwell met with the president of Stanford, John Hennessy, he asked John, if you were to get a $10 billion endowment, could you find a way to use it? John Hennessy thinks to himself, he's like, yeah, we definitely could find a good way to use it. What? No. This is why I'm ashamed to be going to Stanford. John Hennessy, if you're listening to this, Stanford does not need another $10 billion. Let's spend that somewhere that would be useful, not on the elite of the elites of the elites, to widen that gap between regular universities and the elites. It makes me feel ashamed. Stanford is expensive. It's $45,000 a year just in tuition, plus another like 25 grand on top of that just to like live here. I only ever considered coming here because my program gave me a $40,000 fellowship, leaving a $5,000 gap for me to fill, and I thought that was much more manageable than $45,000 on my own. But I'm pretty lucky, I'll admit that. Not every school has that luxury to give those types of fellowships. Financially, it could only work if I got a scholarship, a fellowship, or some type of grant, and luckily I did. But not every program is like that. Not everyone can get a scholarship or a fellowship. That's only the minute few. And that's the problem with our educational system. It is based on student debt. In the US, there's $1.3 trillion of student debt. That's more than auto loans and credit card loans. That's a real issue. We need to change our educational system so it is not based on putting our next generation into crippling amounts of debt where they can't buy houses, they can't start families, they can't do what they need to do to make this country better. This is a huge problem, and in my opinion, something that should be on the topic of every debate, every candidate running for president. This has been a good real talk. Don't get me wrong, I'm very happy to be at Stanford, but at the same time, I'm a little ashamed that I'm perpetuating the system, and I'm part of that. Thanks for listening.